Hey there, and welcome to Timberborn. My name is Zedek, and I am on a quest to terraform this entire map green for a colony of beavers. And in this video, the plan is to start doing exactly that. We're exiting early game at this point. We've got a nice industry set up. We've got a good population of excess beavers. Today, it is time to start playing with dirt and starting to reclaim a lot of this dead land. Now, to terraform this map green, the main thing I'm looking for in this episode is to start rerouting all of this bad water. Now, as far as I can tell, we've got 3 sources of bad water on the map. Here, here, and here. And these are going through all these pressurized tunnels, and that's what's making it very difficult to terraform this map. On this map in particular, the map maker was extremely tricky. And all these tunnels and all these bad water sources are all connected by clever little tunnels. And if I cover one of these up, it just causes that water to be redirected somewhere else. My idea to take care of these sources of bad water is to more or less wait until we've got a drought going on. Use dynamite to get down to the source of it and cap it off. Then sometime in the future, we can come back here and come up with some waterworks to tap into it for power or something else. Now, to pull that off, droughts are not going to be long, so I think what we're going to have to do is potentially do one of these per drought, and also cart in a bunch of supplies and dynamite so that when that drought hits, we're ready to go to dig down there and work on with it. The other thing I think we're going to need is probably dirt. That's the one thing that we do not yet have in our industry. This is very tricky again on this map because there's so many underground tunnels everywhere. When you dig down, you want to be careful not to hit something. I'm thinking somewhere over here would be relatively close to our industry, and this pocket right in here looks relatively clear. Now the dirt excavator is pretty big. I'm thinking what I can do is get rid of this little tiny hill, and then I could put 2 of them lined up somewhere in here. The other thing we can get in the build queue is access points to all the different bad water sources. 2 of the ones that I think we should start with. I think we should go for the one over here, and then next up will be the one over here. Now, one of the things I think I'll do is this one over here is connected to the same water source as this one. If I'm going to do this piecemeal, maybe what I could do is disconnect them by covering up whatever this part is right here. In which case, we'll need crews over here to work to fill in this hole. So we'll start by getting a few beavers up in this direction. And what I'm thinking I could do is if I were to just very strategically get a platform hanging off the edge here, that would let them, when the time is right, have access to build everything. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Let's talk about this source. Now, this source, if I'm looking here, lines up more or less with this set of trees here. This is quite far away, so it would be much nicer if we had access to pylons to get over here. Now, I think we aren't using this station right here. I wonder if we could make some sort of shortcut over there. So, for example, if we had a pylon here on top of that, we can make some temporary way station in case we have other work up here in the future, which seems pretty likely. And let's see, how far can we get to this one? That will still connect there. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to have this long, giant zip line to speed people all the way up to construction zones. The downside with these pylons is, unlike the Iron Teeth, where you can just continuously build from your tubeway, we need to get a road there in the beginning so people have something to work with. So the initial crews are going to have to get to these construction sites the good old-fashioned way. So that will take care of this one. And while I'm at it, I might as well queue up a zipline over to this other construction spot. We've got a few choices for the ziplines that we could continue. Of the ones that I have access to, probably this one might be the easiest. The hardest part is just going to get the crews over this giant canyon. Now, if we're lucky, we can find some place where it's easy to make the crossing from one side to the other. I think maybe our best bet would be something like this. Are these at the same height? I think that is at the exact same height. So we could get somebody there and they could build the zipline station, and then they would never have to make this walk other than the first time over. And I'm just going to have to be very careful to remember to delete all these roads because they're just an abomination. All right, so that is phase one for this terraforming effort. We got a bad tide, which is fine. Hopefully, by the time we get our first drought, we'll be in a position to actually take action. So that means we'll have this bad tide, one good season, and then hopefully another drought that will come up. While we got this bad tide then, let's let them put in those pylon stations and get access to the construction sites. With all those transport networks in place, let's also take a look back at our dynamite to see if we can take care of that and get our dirt excavators in. While the TNT's already been laid, let's go ahead and light that up. And now to figure out where to put the dirt excavators. Well, one of the things, I do remember these require power. So first off, let's figure out our power situation. It looks like we've got power back underneath our smelters. So if I just rearrange something under our platforms here, I should be able to drag that out and connect it. Then I can probably just make a platform on top of the gears themselves, because the entrance to these drills, they're on the second floor anyways. Then we're going to need some place to put the dirt that we're excavating. Let's put it in an underground pile. This doesn't make any sense. We're basically going to start digging dirt and putting it back into the ground, except now it's smaller somehow, but that's all right. We just won't think about it too hard. So that gives us one operational drill. I can see dirt already coming in. One downside I'm seeing with this like massive increase of all this industry that we brought in, we are ending up with a lot of injured beavers. With this, we've got 37 injured beavers, and that's a lot of population that's just out of capacity. And we do have medical beds, but apparently not nearly enough. You can see that there's maybe a few spread out here and there. We're gonna need to definitely step up our healing game here. Let's see, where can we put like a miniature hospital for them? Well, it's not exactly the most relaxing location, but I'm thinking near this toxic lake. Just on this little tiny hill here, I think we could pack in a really compact hospital. And, you know, maybe we could decorate it a bit so it doesn't look quite so dystopian. Long-term, the solution to this hospital is not going to be like bigger and bigger hospitals. It's eventually going to be bots. What is really making these beavers injured is our heavy industry. So if we get bots, I could send the bots in here and they could not get injured. And I could save the beavers to happier occasions. But at least for now, that should help a little bit. And you know, I'm actually going to go a little bit further. Seeing how far behind we are, I'll just throw in a few extra beds. This is just a medical emergency for these poor beavers. With that taken care of though, let's go back to planning our terraforming effort. We've got the dirt, we've got the zip lines over to all the stations. I think what we're really waiting for now is a drought. And when that drought happens, I want to be here to strike. And so what that's going to mean is we're going to have to start carting in the supplies that we need so that we can start immediately. It's also going to mean that we can't have any of these trees here because they're going to get in the way of that. So let's tear out these trees, see exactly where we're going to be drilling, which looks like it's going to be this section down here. I think what I'm going to do is surround it by levees and make potentially dirt. So I'm going to cart in a lot of logs, some dirt, as well as potentially some metal. And we'll need metal, but I don't think we'll need much of it. So I'm just going to cart in like a very small supply of metal. And I'm going to set all of these to be prioritized by haulers and demanding that they be filled. So that way haulers are going to have everything primed and ready to go when our chance comes. And I don't think we need massive supplies of this, but I'm going to request dynamite as well as a small tank of extract, which is used for the dynamite that can go deeper into the ground. And again, all of these are going to be prioritized by haulers and high priority. And I'm going to go over to this other spot and repeat that exact same setup. All right, we've got our storage bins built, and you can see that the haulers are starting to populate everything. Now, Really what I'm waiting for is a drought, because that's when we can act. But if we're careful, I think we can do some prep work. And I do mean careful, because what I'm thinking of doing is I'm going to start dynamiting down towards this. But I need to be very careful, because I don't want to dynamite down so far that I actually hit it, like detonate the side of this. So what I'm thinking is I can surround this all on the edges here. And then I'm going to use levees to take it up. And for now, I'm going to seal it off, but that will give me the option of rerouting it elsewhere. So that would mean I need to get TNT all the way around in a complete parameter like that. So for example, I think something like this shape is what I'm looking for. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start the pit just a little bit, so it's 1 deep. And then once this is built, I'm going to get cranes on the edges here, so I'm ready to go and start building it upward. Right, so TNT is ready. So beavers are allowed to build adjacent and downward without restriction. So I think if I were to build 2 bridges like this, that's going to give me 100% coverage below them to work with. And I think I can go down a couple more levels without problem here. In fact, you know, now that I see this, I think I'm actually fine just to go down all the way to the top. I don't have to wait for a drought, because if this water overflows with bad water, it's just going to go down this river and off the map. So let's go ahead and start laying down that dynamite to get to the bottom. And while they're doing that, I'm going to go over to this other side over here, and we're just going to replicate the exact same setup. I'm going to go down to the bottom, see if I can match up where that bad water is, and then I'm going to try to build something right on top of it. And I think there's going to be a key difference with this construction compared to the other one. And that's going to be that this one doesn't have any overflow when things go bad. So in case I'm going to work on this when it's under pressure, I'm going to make a spillway off the edge of the map. That makes me feel a lot safer about continuing to dig down. So that gives us progress digging down here. Let's go check on the other dig site. Okay, good. It's progressing well. I think I'm going to do the exact same thing. Add a little spillway. I know it's not strictly necessary in this case, but I just want to keep any bad water that comes out strictly contained. Okay. That's good, because that triple dynamite was actually going all the way down. So the spillway is going to go into use pretty soon. And ideally, it's not going to overflow, because it should spill down all the way. Well, that's good. I think we've got almost clear access to everything. The only thing we don't is maybe that little square here. And I think, from looking at this, I think I managed to get this lined up just right. So let's see what we can do here. I think the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to ring this all the way around with levees. Because what I really want to do is contain the contamination that this thing has. And capping it off is where it gets tricky. So originally my idea was to just use dirt, and then use the idea that dirt can overhang each other. So for example, if I built that dirt there, I am allowed to build overhangs to dirt, which would allow me to cover all of this and seal it off. The only downside is that dirt will continue the contamination. Oh, and we've got a drought coming up, so maybe that will make it easier anyways. So that's one approach that I could take. It would probably be the simplest. The other one that I could do is basically create overhangs like this and hang that over the side. But again, that's going to leave open flow over here, and I end up having to seal that off with levees anyways. Well, I think the dirt is less resources. Let's start with that. We can see what the contamination is afterwards. You know, the one thing that I'm concerned with here is the order which I'm putting down this dirt. Because you see, what will happen is, based on the way these arrows are going, this dirt will go down first, which will block my discharge channel. I think I actually want to reverse these. You see, if I built dirt the opposite direction this way, that means that the channel would be the last thing to be sealed. In fact, all I need to do is I'd put 2 levees down there at the very tail end. All right, so we've got all the levees coming up here. Let's check on the other one. Did they get the TNT placed in? Well, they did. let's detonate this stuff as well. I have a feeling this one's going to have to go down another layer. This stuff is all the way down at the very bottom of the map. Yeah, we'll just get another queue of TNT down there. And that may give me an idea if we lined it up right. Yes, we did. Now, one thing I don't like with this construction that I'm doing is if I seal this off all the way here, you can see I'm going to block this tunnel. And this would be great if I could get this working with good water. I wonder what I might do is seal this off all the way down here. Like instead of sealing it up high, maybe I can seal it off super low with overhangs and keep the tunnel intact. We'll see what we can do once we can get down to that level, because we should have construction access all the way through this channel. In fact, now that I think of it, I probably could have done the same thing here, but I'm going to keep it this way because this gives me the option of maybe tapping into that bad water in the future if I want to make like a power plant or something. For now though, let's give them a couple of days to finish these levees and see what this will all look like when it's done. But I just realized something really bad. You see, up here, I went through all this trouble to add this zipline station and make it close. I never connected it with a road. So all this time, these beavers have been walking all the way from this zipline, and that's why construction's been taking so long, even for haulers to keep this stuff occupied. We'll see, this shouldn't take too long now to get this filled in. That should do it for this one. Now, in the drought, we're still got a good number of days left. Let's see what we can do about this other one. The TNT has been laid down. This should get us down to the very bottom. Let's see what I can plan. No, we need to keep on going down. I think because we just hit the tunnel and the TNT didn't go down the full height of the tunnel. But we can get that one going. You know, the other thing I'm wondering if we can do during this drought is there anything that we can do to get rid of this bad water source up here? You see, this bad water source is connected to this tunnel all the way over here, which we do currently use that for our bad water, pipe down here. So I don't want to seal it all the way off. But what I would love to be able to do is disconnect it from polluting down this giant run here. And to do that, I would love to be able to just like put a little bit of dirt right here, which is also plausible. We'll see. I have my doubts that we can do that in 4 days, but I'll queue it up in the background. What I really do care about is this one. I have a good feeling we can finish something here. I see the TNT's already been rushed in, so we'll get it all detonated. And let's see what we can plan. I'm okay with completely losing access to this thing. Probably the cheapest thing I could do here to seal it off would be something like this. In fact, I probably didn't even need to get the dirt all the way around. I probably only needed to get access to this. So I'm just going to put overhangs on top of it and seal that off with impermeable floors. And with this, that should still give me access to the pipe. And look at that, because we've had all those resources available over here, you can see they're able to start building this stuff pretty quickly. So I have no doubt we're going to finish this in time for the drought. Only took a day to get that all sealed in, thanks to all the supplies being near. In which case, the only thing I really want to see if we can rush in 3 days is this little junction right here. We just need to finish this bridge. And again, I'm going to be strategic here and cart in some supplies to speed it up. Unfortunately, this is super deep, so we're going to need multiple layers of dynamite here to work. And if we're lucky, I think this is going to be the last round. Okay, I think that did it. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I dynamite it down just so I could get to this little run right here. I don't want to have to do this again, and at some point I'm going to want to open this up again. I think what I'm going to do is put sluice gates here. At some point we will get around to sealing off this bad water source or doing something, but I will want to basically get rid of whatever temporary block I've got here. In which case I can keep these closed for now, and then when I change my mind, I can go ahead and open them up. Very confident that I'm only going to need the water flowing in one direction, so I'm just going to point them in this direction, set them all to closed. Getting them built will be the immediate priority, and after that, I could potentially just seal them up on top again and just forget about the whole thing. So that gives us 2 days, and then we'll start to see if what we've built is going to work. Now this won't make things green yet, but I think what it's going to do for us is at least stop the flow of bad water to most of the map. And then from there, we can start seeing how we can route some of the good water to replace this bad water. With that in mind, there are two things I'd like to do next, at least in the couple of days we've got left before the good season comes back. Both have to do with our underwater tunnels. So first off, you can see that I've got all this bad water in here, and I could wait for it to eventually evaporate, but that's going to take a while. I would like to have the ability to more or less flush this system off the map. The second is, if I'm going to connect these two pipe networks, you see the red water and our current blue water, I'm worried that this other red water pipe, I don't want it to leak off the map earlier. And if I look over here at the very end where you see this little bit of blue water, you can see I've got this exit point that's much lower. And what that means is that this water would end up coming out of this outlet instead of going up into our giant dams. Because when everything is connected, water will just exit the first exit it can find, or like the lowest height exit it can find. So with that, we're going to take care of both, or at least start working towards both. I would like to drain the map maybe over here. This seems pretty close to this low point, and we already have access to construction over here. I think if I make it a few pylon stations around here, we should be able to use dynamite to run a trench and then just dump all that off the edge of the map. And unfortunately, the first time we build these, we do need stairs all the way through. But you can see what I'm thinking is that if I build a trench all the way down here under this tunnel, that should get us to the very end here. And this would be at the very bottom of the map. And then I think what we'd have to do is make some dynamite over on this section here. So we'll get this part queued up. Now the next part, let's figure out how we can seal off this other edge of the map here. Biggest problem to start with is going to be getting access to it, because this is almost the exact opposite side of the map. And to begin, I'm thinking the cheapest thing I could do is just put sluice gates in here. And I would just keep them closed and remove any of their filtering or other features that they've got. So we need the beavers over there. I think we could just run along this cliff line all the way across. Yeah, in fact, we've got this zip line station over here. Yeah, we can continue this all the way down. So same idea. I'll just maximize how far I can go along this ridge, put down another zip line station, and then unfortunately running through here and putting stairs and access so we can build it the first time. And this is quite the trek to get these beavers out here. The first construction crew is gonna have it rough. And as I'm building this, it still reminds me how much I do love those spiral staircases. It makes it so much easier to make really compact stairs in here. So all that construction takes us to just one last day before the drought begins, and this is going to take a little bit of time to get it going. Just running all those staircases makes construction pretty slow. For example, over here, I see they haven't managed to get over the river yet. While we wait for them to finish that up, let's see what the good season coming back has in store for us. The areas I'm most interested in are the good water sources that we didn't previously have access to. So you can see the water seep over here, it's running. We haven't really messed with this before because it's always been contaminated. And thanks to our work over here to cut this tunnel off, it should be okay. But let's take a look down in the other pipe. Let's see what it's up to. This is really interesting. So you can see that good water is coming in here and it's shoving the bad water around. So you can see this is fine. This is pushing it over here where we've got the outlet. So where we've got construction crews, it's going to start flooding. That might impact us. Like if this bad water gets pushed through all this channel, eventually it's going to push bad water through here. So eventually when that happens, there'll be a period where we don't want our builders there. So I'll keep an eye on that. The other problem that I'm looking at is over here though. So you can see that this good water is splitting now and pushing in these directions, and it's shoving this bad water down the tunnels. And the bad water doesn't have anywhere to go, right? It's getting pushed and it's just compressing or filling up the rest of these tunnels. So I don't know, like I imagine eventually this would become diluted, but that might take a long time. In which case our plan over here to flush the system with a sluice gate down here, I think is going to be key to getting all this junk out of here. I think the areas that we've covered, though, are looking pretty good. So if you look over here, you can see that this is sealed off. I don't see anything coming into this tunnel. And of course, this tunnel is also sealed off. Oh, and look, these beavers have been very busy. Once they got that zip line in there, they already got this channel done. So in that case, let's get this channel operational. I think we just need a couple of pieces so that we can put that sluice gate in. So here goes. We're going to get this first one. Then we're going to detonate the triple dynamite. So that exposes the tunnels and lets it start flooding out. And since I don't want this to happen long term, we're going to go ahead and seal that with one of these sluice gates. We'll keep it open and then just fill it in with dirt so it's nice and clean. Yeah, let's get all that flushed out of there. And you can see that's going to allow more of this good water to push everything out of the system. And you know, while I'm here, just to make this go a little bit faster, I'm going to widen this. I'll have to put in a little bit of extra dynamite to make that possible, but that's fine. This is looking perfect. Well, let's go follow this pipe. Let's go check on the other area and see how they're doing here. Well, you can see what I feared did absolutely happen. All this bad water got pushed here, and it has contaminated this area. The good news is nobody is down there working yet, because I didn't finish completing the road. So, which is fine. That gives us a little bit of buffer time. I have a feeling by the time they manage to get down here, the rest of this bad water is going to get flushed out. With the road restored, you can see them doing their best, trying to build this. It is just so far away from the colony. And, you know, as this game progresses, I'm absolutely going to be leaning into additional colonies and districts. This map is so big, I think it's just going to play better that way. And the work in this episode is really going to set that up. Because once we have got good water in more places in the map, I've got places where I could set up additional settlements. Right, with that zipline station finally in, I would like to get them in here, but this water is still looking pretty nasty. And I think I have a feeling why. Because if we look over at the other side where I was draining water, that drain is still open. And so no pressure is building up and pushing this stuff out. So you can see here, we've got just a rush of good water going through. Let's go ahead and fix that. We'll get both of these closed, and then what that's going to do is force the water to go out through the other way and get rid of that last bit of bad water in that pond. There we go, sealed off. If we take a peek down underneath, you can see it's forcing water around to different areas. We got bad water here. I don't really have a good answer flushing this out for now. I think we're just going to have to wait this little pocket out. Same with this. I think the only way I'd really be able to drain this off is if I capped off this water to prevent it from pushing water in this direction. We can probably do that later, but the hardest part is I need beavers down there to work, so I'd have to get access to this tunnel network somehow. But with that change, eventually that's going to prevent water from flowing this direction anymore, and it's going to go all the way over here and start flushing this stuff out. Excellent. I can see this starting to move again. And as soon as this looks a little bit more blue, we'll get beavers in there. You know, in fact, usually I check contamination using a sluice gate. I want to check something. So if I click on this sluice gate, it tells me the contamination is 11%, which is really interesting because this gate isn't built yet. That's an interesting little bug. Because normally, if for example, a water gauge, you'd have to build the water gauge before you could actually read the measurements. Right? If I click here, it's not going to tell me what it does. But with the sluice gate, apparently I can measure contamination without even bothering to build it. For example, if I go over here, I put that down, yeah, 50% contaminated. Really interesting. I'll keep that little technique in my back pocket for the future. All right, 2%. Water looks nice and blue. Let's get some beavers down there and get those sluice gates built. Actually, you know, before I do that, I'm going to delete one, and I'm going to send somebody down in the tunnels. I know this is a little ridiculous because it's so far away, but this is probably my best opportunity in the near future to get this done. Eventually, we'll get like another access point from a high point, and this is just a horrible route for these beavers to take. I am so sorry. Whoever has to hold their breath for like 2 hours to get in there and 2 hours to get out. What I'm going to do is put some sluice gates here so I can prevent the water from flowing in that direction. So the whole point of that, again, is just so I have a chance to flush some of this bad water out of the system. Like in these pipes. I don't want it hanging around, and I don't want to wait like many days for it to go away. And there are the brave souls going in there on their long trek. Yeah, sorry bud, you're not going to get food for a long time yet. You've got a big journey ahead of you first. Almost to the end. They've been swimming all night. So that gives it a total round trip of 16 hours just in the tunnel segment. And all they do is drop off a couple planks and swim home. I feel pretty bad about asking them to do this. I think this is a time where I have failed them. Well, their suffering is over. Let's close these gates over here. I'm going to reopen these down here. That'll let the rest of that bad water out. Then we're going to go back to this big drainage pond over here, and we're going to close that off. At this point, I think things are going to start getting weird. So we've got this pipe, which is sealed off and it has no outlet. In fact, I don't think it even has anywhere it could go up. The only place it could go up is these areas here. And this segment of the tunnel system, with all the bad water, it's being actively drained. You can see it's finally starting to go through here. So I'm going to give it a day or two to get fully emptied. Yeah, look at, there's so much more bad water in there than we thought. This would have taken a really long time to clear up on its own. Well, after a couple of days, I'm seeing it completely empty out. Unfortunately, I just realized I've forgotten something pretty important. Because what I really wanted to do is go ahead and open this up and start filling it with good water again. But I forgot about bad tides, which we've got one in a day. And what I forgot is that I never built a diversion system for this water source. So what's going to happen is that this is just going to fill up with bad water again. If I let it. Now, right now for this next season, I'm pretty hopeful it's not going to be too bad. It is compressed with good water. So not much new water is going to be allowed to come in. But it would be great if I had some way of dumping this stuff off the edge of the map instead during these bad tides. And I've got a similar problem over here with this water source, right? This water source will start spewing out bad water. And we've got a diversion system that right now will dump it out over here. That's just going to basically earmark this half of the map to be unusable until we can figure that out. That one I don't feel as bad about, but this one I think is absolutely vital for us to figure out. Because until we do, I can't really reclaim this half of the pipe network. So what we can do, we've only got like a short 4-day bad tide season here. We can plan something out, and then once it's good to go back in here, we can get this fixed. I think the easiest way to solve this is really just like, as I said, dumping it off the edge of the map. And the hardest part is, again, going to be getting over there to work. Going through this long road that I've already established, I think that is just not going to cut it. That is just way too far to work. I think one thing that we could do is maybe take advantage of this shaft here or here to get down into the tunnel network. Yeah, this one is going to be a good bet. If we could get here, that would speed up work a lot to run these tunnels. Oh, and I'm also noticing this. I don't like this at all. You notice this bad water is coming down into this pit and contaminating this area that I just spent so much time cleaning up. That's fine. It will drain off the edge of the map, but I don't want to wait days on end for that to finish up again. So let's get that sealed off as well. So we'll queue that up, and I'm also going to put in the rest of those pylons and zipline stations so we can get over to this other mine shaft. And this will be another case where that spiral staircase is going to really help us. This is turning out to be a bigger set of work than I anticipated, but I think this is going to be good. As soon as we get that other diversion system in, we're going to be able to start filling up the rest of that other tunnel network. All right, giant staircase of doom done. Let's get this fixed for good. You can see I've closed off the other sluice gate over here, so it should no longer let water out. All the temporary bad water did get flushed through the system. We're going to go ahead and delete this sluice gate, and we'll take this over here to start working on that discharge system. This is a long walk for them to go through. Now, one thing I did just realize, this tunnel that I made down, this might be the only place where this water can discharge. I might have hurt myself here by putting my storage bins down at this level. Because if this floods from all that pent up demand in the water, it's going to flood my storage bins. Well, it depends on where the first outlet for this pipe network is. And this is a good experiment, because we're going to see what's going to happen. Well, it looks like it's that one and this one. So unfortunately, that did flood my piles. The zipline station doesn't care, so I've got that going for me at least. Oh, here, maybe we can just move this zipline station over and I can move everything up on top. But this is great. This shows that this pipe network is working. In fact, I see it slowly building pressure all through here. And what that would mean is we've got this other area here. I'm going to expect this to start pushing upward. If this can get up a little bit higher, this would start populating this with water. And if we can get it up just a little bit higher, that would mean that we could replace this lake down here and turn all of this green for more farming. Yeah, that's really going to depend where the lowest outlet of water is in this other segment. This one was draining first, but that could have just been due to all the pressure that was there, because I just noticed it stopped. So if I use the height tool, it looks like one of these two. It looks like this one over here or this one over here, some combination of them. In which case I could push this water level just a little bit higher if I added some stuff here. Still, the most important work is going to be that diversion system. Let's take a peek all the way down here and see what we've got. Well, we got the first gates in, and I see them making progress on the tunnel. Not bad. We'll just make sure that's the highest priority thing they can be doing at the moment. I hate having to make tunnels like this, because at this rate of building, we could be looking at like a full season to get this in. I'm not going to time-lapse this. Instead, I think we can go around and just start trying to make all the exit points to the tunnel network higher, with the goal of ultimately getting this river operational again. So let's take a look. I think this part right here is the current bottleneck. So what can we do here to slow it down? Well, let's see. You can see the water's rushing out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set sluice gates here to only let water out at a certain height. The problem is that water is still going to flood down here through these sluice gates, which aren't really doing anything, because they can never meet any condition because the water's just draining off the map. Let's go back to our old-fashioned floodgates. If we were to put two of these here and set these at 0.9 height, that would stop this sluice gate from running all the time. And the rule of thumb I always remember for these two is sluice gates open and close based on water downstream, and floodgates open and close based on water height upstream. And in this case, I want these closed based on the height of this little pond. So these are done. We should expect these gates to now close, and that would cause this lake to fill up higher. Now that gives us one additional height. Where is the next overflow point? Is it here, and we're just going to flood the valley? Or is it over here? Or is it both? Because we're definitely flooding that valley. Yeah, that's not good. At least we don't have anything over there. I think it probably would give us one additional height, but this is problematic, because I don't want it just filling up to the brim like that. Well, I'm going to be tricky about this. I wonder if we could start filling in this lake bed again. See, something like this. That is very haphazard looking. But you can see what I've done is add a little bit of supports so I can build dirt, and then that would allow me to fill in the bottom of the lake again. And all I've left is this little space here for the water to come up in. And so when it gets to the top, I've sealed it off at this point and just allowed sluice gates here to let the water out. So if that works as intended, this would no longer be one of the areas that water from the pipe network could get out. Now, as I look over here, I think this is going to continue to be a problem point for us. Eventually, we could do something similar with this tunnel access point by sealing it off and only allowing a little bit of water out. Now, I don't want to do that yet because this is our only access point to that tunnel network. So maybe in the meantime, what we could do is just add some floodgates over to this run here. Now, another good sign that I noticed is if we zoom out, it looks like this lake is also no longer red, or at least isn't as bad as it used to be. And I think this is actually a pleasant surprise of the tricky mapmaker's tunnel network, because I forgot that there's another entrance point to this lake over here, which is connected to our pipe network. So you can see over here, it's going all the way up and down and all the way through here. And that's one of the outlets for our water. So that's great. You can see it's already started to turn some of this green for us. Now, if we could get just one more height out of the work that we're doing now, that would also allow us to get, I think, this river green again as well. So baby steps. Let's start with getting this pond fixed. So that's perfect. You can see this worked as we intended. It's got everything sealed off. It's no longer flowing. And at the same time, it's still filled to capacity. And if that worked as intended, our river over here should now be the new low point for this pipe. And look at that, it is. We've got water in our river. We've got our nice lake filled in. You can see our beavers over here that used to live by this toxic lake now have a much better view. And you can see this has even worked its way over to this part here. So we've managed to get this part green at the same time. So overall, even with that little work that we've done, I think we've more than doubled our green space on the map. Now, unfortunately, this is not as good as it might first appear, because still, this big patch over here is still in a lot of danger, because our other source is still using it as its discharge station. But the last thing I think I'd like to do in this episode is at least get our diversion system complete. How close are they to finishing this up? Well, it looks like we've only got a short 3 spaces to go. We should be able to finish that within a day or two. Okay, we've got the rest of this tunnel complete. Now, that's going to drain our entire network of tunnels. So let's get this fixed as quickly as we can. We're going to go through here, and I'm going to put a sluice gate at the very end, and ultimately another sluice gate over here. This one will be paused, and this one is going to be the one that is going to control whether bad water goes out. And we just need to get this built as quickly as we can before all the water rushes out from this entire network. There. Okay, that stopped it. And with that, we are in a drought, and I think we're also at a good stopping point for this episode. We've managed to take control of most of the bad water in this map. In fact, I'd say everything except for the water that we're pumping over here, and this segment here that needs a better bad water diversion system. And at this point, I'm really looking forward to the next few episodes, because now we've got an option to use our network of tunnels to start routing water to all these other places on the map. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please consider liking and subscribing if you'd like to see more like this, and I hope to catch you guys next time.